And welcome everybody once again to the PCS Spring Split 2022. We are looking to close out our week number 5, getting so close to playoffs. We can almost taste it. Hey everybody, I'm Pyrotechnics and I'm joined on this broadcast by Nightstar for this wonderful evening. Oh, it is going to be so good. We've got some great games, especially right up there in the front, Nightstar, but before we get to talk about them, I do want to take a moment to thank our wonderful sponsors, CTBC Bank and Caliber. Thank you for making PCS possible. Also, big shout-outs to our broadcast organizers and partners, Riot Games, Carry Live, and Garena. All right, Nightstar, we've got a lot to talk about, and also some stuff to recap from yesterday, because some interesting games happened for sure.
Yeah, we definitely had a couple of interesting results, also in the manner of how they came about, but most notably is, of course, that last game where Beyond were able to find the upset against CFO and really continue CFO's downward slump, and BYG, they're actually trending upwards very, it's getting a little bit scary because BYG, if they can get hot, this is one of those deadly teams in playoffs you do not want to face, because when they streak, they really streak.
Yeah, late games, rather late split surge is something to watch out for, and we know that Mega Bank Beyond Gaming can do some pretty incredible things. I think that is a squad that is a little hard to figure out at the moment. And one of the other things that you mentioned, the head scratcher, has been this somewhat downward trend of the once dominant Flying Oyster squad. Mm-hmm. They have still a very strong core. They've rotated out an AD carry for another. I think Shun has looked pretty good in his 2 games, and I wonder if they will continue to stick with him. But there's a lot of questions that still need answering. But what we don't have any questions for is what happened yesterday, because we're taking a look at the results right now as we see everything on the screen. PSG, of course, beating Deep Cross Gaming to extend their win streak all the way to 13. They've only lost 1 game. The more things change, the more they stay the same, it seems. After that, Impunity beat Hurricane, J-Team beat Metafalcon Team, and then, as you mentioned, the Battle of the Banks Part 2 was won by Mega Bank Beyond Gaming, who now hold that 2-0 record over CFO. That's also big.
Yeah, it does mean that they're going to have side selection advantage if those 2 teams in particular are tied for the end of the split. While they will still have to play a tiebreaker, Beyond Gaming will have a slight advantage when it comes to that game.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Let's take a look at our standings, too, because as PSG are on the top, we do see some of these placements starting to solidify. Deep Cross at the number 2 position. Don't expect them to drop too far, and don't let that loss fool you. That was just against PSG Talon. Of course, J-Team. Honestly, I kind of am surprised that they've managed to make it as high up as they have, because they didn't look like the strongest of the J-Team cinematic universe coming into this split. But they have looked better than CFO, and I think they've even given Deep Cross a bit of a run for their money. I think also other teams have been taking them a bit for granted. You can't give Uniboy Zoe. You just can't do it.
There are a couple of illegal things you just can't do in this league. We've seen teams try again to be like, we'll be the team that breaks Uniboy Zoe down. But it just hasn't happened. So teams just have to realize that, and especially in a best-of-5 scenario, it just has to go away.
Yeah, let's take a look at our matches for today. We are starting off with an absolute banger. CFO taking on PSG Talon to see if they can upset the apple cart. This is more likely than not, in my mind, one of, if not the toughest opponents that PSG will have to face in the regular season yet. They have 1 more game outstanding with Beyond to try and get that 1-1 tie-up and round out a 17-1 split. It's very, very possible. The rest of the teams they face way down at the bottom of the table. But CFO today, I think this is still going to be a big test. They still have a strong squad, and we'll see if they are able to get it done. We also have another interesting matchup in the middle of the table between Metafalcon Team and Frank Esports. That one I've certainly got my eye on.
Yeah, both of these teams can clinch playoffs today. Impunity also another team that can clinch at least a playoff slot. And, for MFT and Impunity, they also do need Hurricane Gaming to lose, but it's not exactly out of the realm of possibility given that Hurricane Gaming are taking on Deep Cross. So, really, it's about win and get in for Frank Esports. For MFT and Impunity, it's win and pretty much get in.
Just about lock it up. I mean, we can talk about playoff lock scenarios pretty early in our split, just because it is top 8 teams that make it in, will get a chance to prove themselves in those best ofs. And I do think some of those things you were talking about with the likes of Beyond Gaming, and also teams like Deep Cross, who have shown a lot of incredible diversity in champion picks, in compositions. I think those are the teams that can really start to upset the apple cart here as we start to see what these new squads in the PCS can bring to bear. But let's start off with our first game of the night. CTBC Flying Oyster looking to turn things back around for themselves, swapping in their AD carry. Atlan is out, Shun is in. So far, he's only played the Xayah, but he's looked pretty darn good on it, and I think that this is a squad that is looking to try and disrupt the power core that is PSG Talon.
Yeah, and I think the Xayah pick, while Atlan could probably play it, it wouldn't be as nearly effective because Atlan has been more of the sit back, I'll play weak side sort of bot laner, whereas the Xayah pick right now in this current meta with the lethality form, you have to get more out of the lane phase. You have to hard punish the enemy laner with this champion, and I think Shun is probably more accustomed to that playstyle, having more solo queue experience rather than competitive experience. You know, hasn't quite tasted that same sort of competitive edge yet.
I'll see if he's able to change it. I also like he's got quite a poker face, too. He can give Unified a run for his money. And now on the opposite side, we do have PSG Talon, the reigning champions, looking to put together another incredible run here in the spring split. Hanabi, Juhan, Bei, Unified, and Kaiwing. And it does seem like if there is a point of attack, it's got to be that mid-jungle, just because they're the newest players. They're still slotting into the team. They've looked great, but if you have to ask who's the weakest, air quotes, weakest mechanically, it's probably those two.
Yeah, I would certainly agree. I love how Juhan has read the map, but when it comes to some of these micro mechanics, he has come short. So if it's anywhere for CFO, it has to be the mid jungle. You have Mission, you have Gemini, very, very skilled players. So that's going to be the highlight matchup. It is going to be our junglers here. And I mean, Juhan has been a little bit more active on the map, but that's not it to say that CFO don't lack power. It's just not quite as much power as PSG. PSG clearly on another level, but some of the stats, like for CFO, they have the fastest game time in our league, Pyra, but at the same time, they're 6th in first blood rate, which means they aren't active to attack early on.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues, right? Is that this is a team that has been winning a lot of games because they just like outlane, they can bully their opponents, but they're not going for those coordinated kills. And I do think that you looked at the first blood percentage for Gemini, also pretty low compared to Juhan. I don't think he's really that big of a ganking jungler, and I feel like you've got to try to be more active and proactive on the map, right? If you want to beat PSG, that's a necessity. But we're in picks and bans, and we have all 6 already on the board. A pretty big mid lane Syndra ban thrown Mission's way. It makes a lot of sense. The Gwen, of course, always going to be contested between these two. And the Xayah banned against PSG. Unified's had so many bans thrown his way. They're going to give him the chance to try and handshake on the Aphelios, but I kind of feel like Unified would almost prefer to play like the Jhin or something. We'll see.
The Jinx locked in here for CFO. It makes sense that they would go ahead ban away the Xayah in that regard, because it is sort of just a flavor of the month champion that's really dominating that matchup. And for PSG, they do get their hands onto the Rise. We haven't seen Bei's Rise in a while just because it's been denied away from him. So they go ahead, open up with the Xin Rise, which is sort of the next best thing to a Hecarim Rise combination. Plenty of tempo included and a lot of mid-game power. But CFO, we've seen them play 2 back-to-back games of Galio Mission, and it looks like it's going to be a third. So they've taken what I mentioned earlier and just said, no, we'll just try and match global pressure here against this Rise. So I'm not sure if I like that, but surely an early Tom Kench is not going to come through.
Yeah, I am hearing some
Oh
Some
no.
disappointment
Oh
in the
no.
voice of Unite Star. This is starting to look like they're falling into a bit of a trap. And I do have a silver lining for you. A little stat, little fun fact.
Okay.
Rise is the only champion Bay has a loss on. So there, take that. Ha. No, it's. I mean, Rise and Xin Zhao are like the most comfortable duo for these two, and Unified's like, yeah, sure, I'll play Aphelios, whatever. PSG are getting everything they're happy with this game, even if maybe they'd prefer some different champions.
Yeah, so champions-wise, PSG get what they wanted. The Aphelios, of course, is Unified's most comfortable champion remaining. So going into the second phase, again, the interesting part is we seem to over-prioritize the Tahm Kench in PCS right now, and that also means surely we see double support bans coming in from CFO to make sure this Tahm Kench does not get hard punished. But the moment you allocate a ban towards the top lane, it just means like this Tahm Kench is going to get taken advantage of. There's no doubt in my mind we're going to see either a Renata pick, which is insane against Galio too, because you're funneling in and then you're just going to get hit by the takeover. So it has to be that ban here on second rotation. Otherwise, for PSG, you can save it for last pick, but knowing how the compositions are right now, you should just go ahead, lock it at R4.
Oh, they banned the Leona, which has been Kaiwing's most played, but I'm starting to be a little more convinced by the Renata. Meanwhile, PSG have opted to ban two pretty Gemini-centric champions. I mean, the Lee Sin all over the place in this league. Doesn't really matter the year, of course. But I was hoping to see that picked up. Yeah, and so is Rakan. But yeah, Diana could be a big one for Gemini, but it is still like a fast 6, right?
Yeah, but because you have the Galio, it's not like you have a heavy magic damage dealer in that mid lane, so you need to find some sort of magic damage to help even things out. Diana would make the most sense in that regard. If you want to go super early game, you could try the Elise. That's also still Jarvan, a champion that's possible, and it gives you a lot of early game tempo to try and capitalize, and gives you a lot of dive power in that mid jungle combination. But it looks like they're considering a Graves jungle.
Okay, yeah, with the Camille locked in, you've kind of got the makings of a bit of like a wombo combo, like superhero slam down that we saw MFT doing. With the Graves lock in, that is a lot of AD on CFO's side.
Yeah, that is going to be a concerning thing just to follow in the game, but obviously they have clear power points because they have the Camille Galio combination, so their mid game can be incredibly dangerous. But for PSG, like, you're comfortable taking even a Renekton into the Camille matchup because while both of these champions have been nerfed, you can still play it, but you can also play the Gangplank, which just rounds out this composition very, very well. Very hard to dive a Gangplank ultimate once that gets thrown down in a team fight. So I love the setup coming from PSG, and I really favor their composition over the likes of CFO.
Yeah, they got some good globals to play with, and I feel like Kanabi is just always so in his comfort zone. He's getting to play things like the Gnar Blind. The Gangplank is the other champion he'll just take into whatever matchup, and you know, it just feels like free real estate, free plunder.
Yeah, and again, I don't really like the early Tahm Kench lock-in, just because of the fact that it offers and allows the other side to pick something like a Rakan, which is weak in lane, but if you get out of lane, there's so much more you can do in these team fights, and that's exactly kind of what happens here. So I don't like how things transpired with that CFO draft, so I do give heavy favorites over to PSG. But if you're going to attack, like, I feel like it has to be this top side because you have the Camille, you have the Galio. If you can get snowballing here, then it can definitely make things dangerous for this Aphelios.
No, that's true. And if you are going to try and dive somebody, I mean, pre-6 Gangplank is still fairly squishy. Obviously, he'll be able to sustain throughout the regular 1v1. We expect Grasp of the Undying to come in. but it is always possible, and CFO do have the ability to make moves quickly around the map. I am a little bit surprised that these are the final champions. We see them rounding out. I'm a little bit worried that they won't have enough damage, and it's fairly easy to itemize against. But you know what? We'll see. CFO had a really hot start here, and if they could end PSG's dominating streak of 13 wins, that would be something to talk about for sure. But we will see if the Flying Oyster can fly high, or if they're going to be a sour shellfish by the end of this one. Let's take a look at our runes and masteries. It is the Predator Galio once again, so mission can be a speedy boy.
I like the Predator Galio a lot more here, just because you're not really worried about getting all-ins by a rise. So Predator makes a lot more sense. Allows you to possibly gank one of these sides a lot earlier than they would expect, and that should be a really big snowballing point for the side of CFO Gemini. Walking in, trying to scout out the wars, but he does miss the one by red buff.
We've seen this one before get completely ignored. Gets one deep over the side of the red pit, so at least they can have eyes on Juhan as this one begins. I'm not entirely certain if he saw that, but apart from some more placements, yeah, if he cares to use it.
Which, he'll probably just wipe it out.
There we go.
So he gets himself an extra 10 gold. Yeah, for PSG, it's about trying to neutralize that early game, because you know Predator Galio can hit hard early on and possibly gank one of these sides. Once you hit level 6, you're going to be a lot more comfortable playing the game, even though there's still that Wombo potential coming in from a Camille Galio combination.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them try to pull that one off. It does require some coordination, and you know, we have been saying that one of the issues we're starting to see with this CFO side is they're a little reliant on getting those early leads out of laning phase, not necessarily even like ganking and even killing people early, but then just don't seem to have as much of a good time with the double engage plays. There we go. Nice catch on the taunt. Base taken very low, and Juhan is going to come forward to try and defend. They don't get the kill, but they do burn the flash for free, and that's a good start. So throw out everything I just said, Nightstar, because that was good coordination to kick things off.
Yeah, and we also missed it in the itemization, and the fact that Mission, he's just gone straight for boots. So he didn't go for Adorn's Ring or Corrupting Potion. He just went for Refillable and Tier 1 boots, just to make sure he has that Predator available to take right off the bat, and he makes the gank happen. Base forced to flash. That is massive for the side of CFO, and they'll also be able to isolate this bottom half of the map with this vertical jungle setup. So the consequences are, well, now you kind of put this Rakan on notice. You make sure this Tom Kench doesn't get punished as hard, as now they're actually looking to possibly try and dive Bay.
Gemini just holding onto the wave here. That means Bay can't rely on any minions. Good taunt. Does he have enough damage? Justice Punch in first blood. Kaiwing, what are you doing? Koala followed him all the way here, and that's going to be 2. What did you say, Nightstar? Attack the mid and jungle.
Yeah, and Bay, I mean, his positioning isn't all that bad. You just don't expect the level 3 dive to come through, right? Especially mid lane, when it is a very short lane, the minions are going to come in, and it's hard to force a dive in that situation. Now, Rest, though, if he overextends, he could get possibly caught out by Juhan, but I think he's able to sort of fake the pressure in that instance, and perhaps say, hey, I might have my own jungler coming in, and if that's the 2v2, it could go wrong because you do have Ignite onto this Camille.
That's part of the map awareness you've got to have. Of course, Rest, a very experienced player. So is Hanabi, though. Got to be a little careful there as he is starting to fall a little down in the CS. Meanwhile, let's take a look at that replay again. After the initial kill, Kaiwing goes roaming. He's spotted out by Koala, and he just gets himself pincered.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where, like, you want to roam mid to try and help out, because you see the jungler showing there, but he ends up just getting pincered because of his pathing. So really nice play coming in from CFO, and this is exactly what we wanted to see from them. We just didn't expect Mission to really control the game with this Galio pick, because against BYG, it was very underwhelming, and you could say maybe it was because it was against the Akali of Minji.
Possibly. Now we'll have to see if Shun can actually survive here. Forced to flash, but followed by Unified and Kaiwing, and they just take him out in the 2v2, and Koala should be able to walk away on the Tahm Kench. Meanwhile, got a little bit of a tussle in the jungle here as Juhan and Bei combo up. Extra damage onto Mission, wins a war, just barely dodged. Gemini going to dash forward, get some extra hits with the end of the line. Mission is a pretty speedy boy, not just because of the Predator here, Nightstar. After that kill, he spent that money on a nice pair of boots. He's got his Sork shoes already.
Sork shoes get some decent trade damage, of course, with the extra pen, and it's not going to be, of course, as helpful in just shoving out the wave because it doesn't give you AP or any of that, but it will help out in these trades, which is exactly what they are looking for. You also look at the itemization coming in from the Graves. He has a Dirk, so the trade and fighting power provided by these two in particular is very, very high.
Yeah, they're going to try to keep PSG at arm's length here as the Hextech Drake is in sight for Gemini and Koala. You do see Shun, though he does have no summoners, is holding on pretty well. Should be able to rotate up here to help take it. And a really good push established by CFO. Gold pretty much dead on even at the 2-1 kill score, and Koala doing a great job of zoning as they ping out Kaiwing. Should be enough to grab this dragon. It's a little bit dangerous of a game to play as Gemini has been tanking it quite a lot here, but the smite is right. So they will be able to pick up that dragon early, and the prio in mid and bot pays off for Flying Oyster.
Yeah, now Gemini in a pretty good spot, all things considered. Gets his team that dragon and gets that scuttle. A stat for the side of CFO, they are actually first when it comes to first dragon percentage, sitting at 79%. So they do prioritize that bottom side of the map, trying to get that first dragon more often than not, and that tends to be one of their win conditions. Just try and play for those 4 dragon stacks. Whereas on the flip side for PSG, they love to focus that Herald, right? So first Herald percentage for them is at 79%. So we'll look for PSG to make a play towards that area. Whereas on the flip side, CFO, they only have a 57%. So they prioritize that much, much less.
Yeah, it does. It is a little interesting to see how these two different teams operate on the sides of the map. We talked about how coming into this game, the expectation of the hope was that they try and snowball off that top side on the CFO side, but instead it's been the opposite. And you do see a pretty significant CS differential, Hanabi over the Camille, but it seems like Rest is perfectly happy to just sit there and trade tit for tat. Keep in mind, he does have the combat summoners with that Ignite Camille going in. It's going to be all about that combo, but you got to be careful. You don't want to give up the Ghost and allow PSG to take that early Herald. Juhan now rotating up that way, and Bei fully in plain vision, so this should be spotted out by Rest, but the dive may come in anyways.
Yeah, they could either look for just this blue buff or look to try and attack that top side. Of course, they do have the Realm Warp, but once Mission does pop that Predator, it makes it very easy for him to just gap close all the way towards that top lane. So
yeah,
the moment Predator does get popped, you also gain movement speed when you're moving towards enemy champions, so you can almost kind of scout things out as well, because if you're gaining move speed, it means enemy champions are somewhat near.
Yeah, he's kind of putting on his best Udyr impression, right? You know, just start running at somebody and just boogly, boogly, boogly. Hope they run away.
But now, possible attempt down bot side.
That's a 2-level differential. I don't think Mission's afraid of anything at this point. Gemini actually starting Herald with the help of Rest soon. This is in full sight, but actually with a great timing window, there's nothing PSG can do about this.
Yeah, and the side of CFO, they understand what
oh boy,
the side of PSG want to make happen is dive this bottom lane.
Yeah. Oh, good night, sweet Jinx. Shun just gets completely annihilated. Koala, though, he turns 1. Can they get more now that Mission's in, clearing the wave away? Koala trying to hang on. Great health, not a whole lot there, but they've stiff-armed Kaiwing, Bei, and Unified. It's a 1-for-1 trade.
That is a fantastic start coming in from CFO, able to trade out. They get more gold onto Gemini here. He can throw down the Rift Herald if he wants and get solo plate gold. In this setup, you want Gemini to get a lot of the gold because he is playing that Graves, and Graves, of course, one of those champions that we've seen a lot more in the solo lanes because you can get more resources. You get more access that way, but If you are just kind of given some lane EXP coming in from mid lane, that will also help considerably as well. Now, if we take a look at where things stand between the lanes, we can see Hanabi's done a very good job top side, even against an Ignite top laner. But this mid jungle, which we highlighted pre-game, that's been really the shining light for CFO still.
Yeah, that's been massive right now. You see that PSG executing what looked to be a pretty solid dive down bottom to try and deny Shun even more presence in the lane, but he's managed to hold his own because they got the kill back. It did land into Koala's pockets, so it means that that gold is on the support rather than the carry. But Mission is really the one running the tables here, and he really has to. It's a very active, very global presence mission that I don't think we really got to see in the Beyond Gaming match. I don't know what he's been eating, but it's certainly doing a lot better.
Yeah, I feel like Mission's trying to take more of the shot calling role for the team here. And you look at how many times he's tried to fake pressure or actually make these roams to cover these sides. He's still up in CS, Pyra. Like, it is nuts to do this on a Galio. You're up 20 CS on Galio, and you're still just roaming insanely well.
Yeah, Mission's getting a lot done. I think he might be cheating a little bit because he's taken a bit of jungle tax, but that's okay. It still counts. Gemini's been able to make up for it in his own lane. Speaking of Gemini, he does have his Eclipse already. One of the advantages of going for that lethality build, you can get your Mythic a bit faster. And it looks like a bit of a dance kind of is turning into Koala getting collapsed on, and that is a good quickness from Kaiwing. It's only going to catch the one. Shun going to try and cover their escape here with the Flame Chompers, but Koala will still go down, and the decisive movement from PSG nets them a quick kill, should allow them to take this Drake uncontested.
Yeah, they'll look for Drake here, and I think Gemini, he should just look to book it straight towards that top lane because he's seen that Hanabi has made his way down here, and you can get that Rift Herald just plop down top lane and should be able to destroy that tower up top side. Mission as well, trying to cut off any early rotations or anyone trying to cut through, but it will just be them settling for this red buff. I'd still like for them to try and force their way up top side, and it looks like Gemini's just going to forego the red buff. Or actually, no, he did, I think, get the smite, so he's going to get that, but now Unified in trouble.
Okay, this is actually really good right now. Koala can take it up.
Is he in trouble?
Look at the damage he's dishing out here! Rocket gonna go at point blank, but Shun has to flash the heal. Does he have the damage? Unified's gonna flash away. Oh dear. Shun couldn't get it done with Koala sacrificing, and meanwhile, CFO don't get the Herald drop.
Oh, man. I mean, Gemini, he has to put it down now because it's just about to time out.
Yeah.
But this is really massive mismanagement of resources here. Like, you had the opportunity to cash in a lot harder, but they got a little bit greedy, I think, saying, you know what, we want the full tower instead of just settling for what we can, and now you get the same amount of gold regardless, but you've done it a little bit later. And down in that bottom lane, it's just Tom Kench is not it. But
no, it's not just that.
Unified had red-white, and that's the perfect guns to try and 1v2, especially when one of them is a melee support.
Well, here's the other issue too. You shouldn't be dropping a Jinx rocket at point blank range. By the time it charges up, you do more damage with the minigun.
That can also be said as well.
A little bit of a rookie mistake there from Shun, but I mean, unfortunately, that is the outplay from the highly experienced PSG bot, and it does mean that the momentum swings a little bit. PSG get themselves in the gold lead. It is a dragon apiece. That Herald did not get nearly as much gold as they would have liked. All the same, Gemini still a pretty big threat here. Has the Serrated Dirk on top of the Eclipse now, and Rest has got his Divine Sunderer, but it is critically behind Hanabi's Triforce, so we'll see if he's going to be able to catch back up on the farm game. He has been down about 20 CS for a little while now.
And more importantly here, even with Mission doing everything he's been doing, CFO are only dead even, and this is a composition that you'd like to get snowballed early on because you do know Galio is going to drop off when it comes to the damage department. Also, just because he is running, of course, the Everfrost, more about utility coming out from the champion rather than pure damage. And for the side of PSG, yes, you might lack some magic damage yourself later on coming in from the Rise, but once you get tanky, like, there's really no way for CFO to get past this. You know, you're getting that frozen heart, you're getting a whole lot of armor. I don't see large issues for the tank Rise, but there will always be concerns when I see tank Rise.
I know you've always got concerns. Like I said, it's the only champion Bay's lost on, so something must be wrong, right? You know, that's how stats work. Yes, another absolutely. Herald does go the way of CFO, though. Maybe they can get something more for it. The issue is they lose bot tower completely to a free push from Unified, and now they're going to bring Mission down there. Teleport still in his pocket, but it's not a massive edge when PSG are just playing that much better right now. And yeah, I'm curious to see where the second Rift drops, because they need to get more value out of it than they did the first.
And for the side of PSG, this is just what they do well at. It's just out-rotating the other team. CFO, this has been a clear weak point for them. It has been lane allocations and just trying to move around the map and keeping up with their opponents. So, a bit of a mismatch when it comes to styles in this mid-game. But it will be key to just try and keep track of how much PSG are able to get before, of course, that key dragon fight, which will happen either on this next one or I would expect to see on the one after.
Right. Cloud Rift, of course, going to be the one to contest for. Neither team built up a Drake stack, thanks to the swing that PSG were able to get down bot. So it does mean that we could be in for a long game when it comes to the Drakes, if one of these two teams doesn't end up snowballing it out. Pretty good vision control here for PSG down bot river. Let's see if they're going to be able to keep that one up, but there is a big push topside from two members of CFO. If Hanabi can hold on to it, Gemini would want to drop this one and see if they can get the dive in. We haven't really seen too many Hextech ultimatums here. That's just going to be the tack sweep in the end of the line. Forces out Hanabi's flash. You have to think they're pretty happy with that, but it does open an opportunity for PSG to grab the dragon, uncontested. Timing on the roam, he dashes to safety, and we wash, rinse, and repeat.
Yeah, usually you do want to, of course, play towards dragon if you need to find that big team fight, but we know CFO, they love to just kind of wait for things to play out here. So they've gone ahead, given up that next dragon, and now they're going to look towards contesting the more important dragon because of just how far behind their Jinx currently is, and that is their main win condition, even though you do have this wombo combo potential of the ultimatum into Hero's Entrance.
We haven't seen it just yet, though, and if they can get the drop on, that would help. Hanabi has no flash, so that's going to be the jump in. Trying to get it flash forward. Gemini looking for it. Hanabi wanted the outplay, but Gemini blows him away. And that is going to be the end of that. Should be the Herald pop here, but maybe not, because everyone else from PSG is coming to the rescue and trying to clean things up.
Oh, the collapse is coming in pretty fast here as Juhan.
Gemini.
I mean, he's got position on to Gemini, so Gemini just... Yeah, he is definitely known.
Yeah, but
his team's
looks
here.
Like the rest of the team is going to be able to cover for him. Juhan actually ends up having to pop the Crescent card to stay alive in that. Faye covering the mid. I really want to see Gemini try to find the value out of this. You'd see the push Mission is doing on the bot. A big wave of minions here. PSG just so much faster to the punch. They're having a hard time getting the edge, but Kaiwing looks like they are going to be able to cut off the movement, so Bay is going to be the only one here able to defend. And you have to think this tower is going down on this push if Mission wants it. We're going to take a look at the replay again up top. Rest, really good positioning on Hanabi. No flash. Gemini burns his. Just secures the kill. Probably wasn't necessary, but it was stylish.
More than enough damage to burst people out in that situation. Unified will expend his ultimate to trade for Koala's ult. So, you know, pretty, I would say, worthwhile trade for the side of PSG because it is, of course, Philios, and if you don't have the correct gun setup, namely Gravitum, the Moonlight Vigil is really just a big damage ultimate rather than utility focused.
Right. Oh, definitely key to use that one there when you can get the chance. Now, with the outer tower just a smidge from being knocked over, CFO do have a chance to really open up a lot more map control as the game starts to shift towards Baron in the next couple of minutes. The next Cloud Dragon will spawn, so they've got a bit of a swing. The question is, what can they do with it?
Yeah, the next ring will be key for the side of the CFO. I don't know if Shun will be able to hit that Phantom Dancer in time. 2.5 minutes to go, but for Unified, he's going to be able to complete that Bloodthirster next. That should give him a little bit more sustainability in these fights, and it's important. Like, PSG don't have to do a whole lot to be able to win these fights because it's about denying that first reset, and as long as you build a little bit of armor or defensive build path wise, I think they're really set up for success. But at the very least, CFO do have gold advantage coming into this next fight, and Rest, while it is getting collapsed upon, he knows what's going on, so he will be able to get out scot-free.
Ooh, Gemini going to try and chase down Unified. Does throw down the end of the line, but the rest of the cavalry's arrived. Gemini's in a little bit of trouble. Yeah, Shun's going to have to throw out the Flame Chompers, so they do manage to get that mid tower. It was already pretty much dead anyways. And they've got an inside track to rotate down river, but no dragon just yet, so it's not going to do them a whole lot of good. I do think that CFO's... the answer they seem to have found here, Nightstar, to having a hard time with the 5v5 and the reset denial is to just not take the 5v5. They're just trying to be in 3 lanes at once with the 1-3-1.
Yeah, and I mean, at the same time, we haven't seen them cleanly play it out with this style yet. So it is a little bit refreshing to see them being able to adapt a bit. And at the very least, it does seem like they've learned from, I would assume, their VOD review of last night and how poorly that went, and that they reevaluated and said, you know what? Let's play it this way, because we know PSG, they're a very well-coordinated team. Our coordination, not quite there yet. How can we come up with a plan to deal with that sort of approach? And I think this approach makes a lot of sense right now. Interestingly enough, Hanabi went for the Hull Breaker on very surprising champion. So Gangplank taking the Hull Breaker, not the...
You know, I've watched this item be built on so many champions, Nightstar. I've been watching LCS as well, and they just think it's great on anything. So who knows? Maybe it is the universal answer to life, the universe in top lane. It's Hullbreaker.
It is right now on this current patch. Won't be the answer on 12.5, but currently PSG occupying mid lane. And I think PSG are just going to try and threaten this Baron in exchange for Cloud Dragon. So CFO, they claim the Cloud, but PSG, more importantly, avoid the big wombo fight potential at this next breakpoint. So once more, we're going to wait for, I think, the next Dragon Pyra.
Yeah, we're going to be in a bit of a waiting game. But I mean, I like that CFO are the ones that are driving the tempo. Shun is stepping a little far forward. You got to be careful. That was dangerous, but nobody decided to push on that one. It was a really good stiff arm from CFO to deny any chance of engaging on the Dragon. I think they're okay with not having the big wombo fight go off if they still get the objective. They can grab this one on the top, and now Hanabi is getting dove into the Hextech Ultimatum straight to the top. Not much they can do about that, and honestly, really good catch and execution from CFO.
Yeah, Hanabi just out a little bit too far at that moment. You know, against the combination of Camille Galio, a dive's very easy to execute, even with the extra resistances coming in from Hullbreaker, because you are running the Lucidity boots. You're not getting extra durability from your boot selection. So for CFO to get yet another pick there, and this is where things could possibly get tricky, because PSG also, you know, you are going tank rise, so damage profile in that regard is relatively comparable when you look at these mid lanes. You might even say that Galio has more damage at this point, because if you look at the itemization, he's getting more power and oomph from these current items than Bay is from his current items.
I think you're right. It does limit some of PSG's damage potential if you are able to isolate and shut down Hanabi. That's one less side lane to worry about. And you start to look at who are the other damage threats on PSG. I mean, you're looking at the likes of an Aphelios, but he's still only sitting on Gale Force Bloodthirster at the moment. So he's not quite hit that 200-year status. And meanwhile, you want your Jinx to get to that point too, but you have other damage-dealing threats. You have the Mission Rest combo. You know that if they catch you on the side lane, it's still going to be just as deadly as if you get Wombo comboed on any of the other lanes. Plus Gemini, of course, on the armor pen too. He's starting to move himself a little bit more forward in his build. Now has the Serpent's Fang complete.
Serpent's Fang, very interesting, and of course reduces the amount of shielding to come out on the side of PSG. That's going to help out against Bloodthirster. Also going to help out against the Recon Kit. Also will help out against the Thimblewinter on the Rise. So actually a really intelligent buy here coming in from CFO. And at this point in time, for the side of PSG, this might be an over...
A little bit.
Overdrive.
Yeah, Gemini's here. Let's see how that goes. The quickness comes through. Actually, it's PSG that overstep a little bit here, and Shun playing well around the boundaries. A good collapse. They should be able to walk it out, though, as Juhan had the Crescent Strike active, so a bit of touch and go there. But CFO understanding their limits well, and this is a big improvement even over yesterday, Nightstar.
This is what we want to see from CFO, right? Because this team is just so darn skilled that it is almost inexcusable for them to take as many losses as they have in that second half. And the second round robin, they're looking for their first win against one of the top half teams. It would be very surprising for them to come out with this win, but it would be a much welcomed win for the side of CFO.
And it would be a very surprising one for the league. So far, we have been talking up PSG Talon as an unstoppable juggernaut because that's what they've looked like. Not necessarily because they just outlane all their opposition. They out-rotate, but this time they're the ones getting out-rotated. Mission just able to take down Kaiwing, and in comes Koala to the rescue, but who's rescuing who? Blast Cone popped. Shun covered the escape as the Moonlight Vigil does come through, and into the belly of Tahm Kenshi goes. PSG trying to find the answer kill, but meanwhile, look on the side lanes, Nightstar. It's free real estate for Rest.
Yeah, Rest able to get a lot done down towards that bottom lane. And PSG unable to trade for their support. So PSG now put firmly on the back foot because it is now a 5k gold differential. And CFO is just full court press approach. Just push all these lanes really, really hard. And Mission, like, he is really flexing this mid difference at the moment. That Unify tries to get one back, gets the lockdown onto Shun, but Claws there, gets the devour, and not only that, it expends 2 flashes there. So Bay won't have his flash, does have a ghost going into this next fight, but more importantly, Unified doesn't have flash himself. So CFO, of course, with this full court press, they have access to the dragon because the waves are just so shoved up mid and bottom. And for PSG, now it's really time for them to flex those brain cells, because that's what they've been really, really good at, even in a couple of these losing positions, namely against J Team, where they were behind last week, that they were still able to find that one big fight to transition into a Baron and a win. Hanabi caught out though.
Yeah, this is going to be the Hextech ultimatum into
Pain
the Galio
train.
drop. It's going to be Kaiwing to the rescue. Oh, flash away. And do they get baited out? Rest is going down here. Flashing back his Mission. That's PSG on the charge. They've got the 2 on the overextension. They want more. Juhan into the Crescent Guard. Koala's going to go ahead and swallow up Shun, but I don't know if it's going to do enough here to save the life. Flash is burned across the way into Rune Prison. Gemini goes, and they take him out on the overload. CFO headed for the hills, and I don't believe it. Everybody from PSG wins and lives at the end.
Yeah, and more importantly, they killed Gemini so they can turn straight for this Baron if they want because they have the jungler advantage. That's exactly what they're going to do. And I don't think CFO can do a single thing about it. They don't have the Jinx Rocket. And if you go ahead and face check as the AD carry and supports, it's only going to be a bad time. So PSG, they get a huge capitalization. This was exactly what we were calling for. It doesn't come from them out macroing CFO. It's more like PSG, they don't exactly have a ton of ground to cover to protect their own base. So the rotation's just faster coming in to help out Hanabi.
This is Kaiwing. He absolutely saves the life of Hanabi there. And then the cavalry arrives. PSG are just faster on the map. And before they knew what hit them, CFO were losing members left and right. And this is the clutch factor that Gemini, they immediately recognize the smite threat, turn for him, ignore Shun. That's fine. He can't contest, and the shutdown gold lands into the pocket of Bay. A brilliant move by PSG Talon, and they're back on the board at 31 minutes here, looking to push down mid lane.
Yeah, now you've got to deal with a low-range composition against Philios. That's what CFO is starting to turn into, right? Because you have 3 melees and a Graves. While this Graves is going for the lethality version of Graves, which is a lot more effective in this situation because you're just trying to burst out one single target. You're not going to be able to get a whole lot of autos against Gangplank, Rise, and Aphelios, or at least your autos aren't going to do as much in comparison to what is going to get returned to you. You're just trying to unload as much damage as possible, but it still means you're essentially 4 melees against an Aphelios who is 3-0-3.
Right, and you're starting to see some of the limits of some of those choices, right? The Gallia from Mission got shredded a little bit faster. He did have extra health thanks to the Shadow Flame, but not enough stats in the other direction. So he kind of indexed a bit on trying to get that damage done. Unfortunately, they couldn't quite do it.
Oh, Shun's way out of position.
Oh, boy, yep. Oh, swallowed up by Koala. Will it be enough? Here comes the hero's entrance.
Oh, might be
Kaiwing gets caught and blown up, and now,
punish.
how about turnabout for fair play?
TP
I don't
behind?
think they want any more, but that's going to be a TP for rest. I don't think he wants that one either. A little bit of a misfire.
You can look to re-engage
time for Gemini up top. Once again, if they can keep them busy, keep them from backing, this could be the inhibitor tower.
Stop the board, stop the board.
Here comes Rest. Sweeps back once again. Hanabi taking a little bit of damage on the Winds of War. They're going to be able to get this tower. And even with the Baron empowered minions, nobody can safely back.
Stop the boards. Juhan's dead.
Into the Hextech Ultimatum he goes, tries to Blast Cone. Absolutely not. You are denied, my good sir. And that is going to be Inhibitor Tower 1. They wanted to collapse a bit more. Instead, they see that their window may have closed, but they should be in great position to take Seoul.
We've been so critical about CFO and their team fights, and now in this game against PSG, who has had the better team coordination, especially when it comes to team fighting, they just take the complete opposite approach. They just said, all right, we're going to play 1-3-1. We're going to play 1-4. We're even going to play 1-4 with our jungler, of all things. And, man, has it paid off so far? Yes, they did drop that one fight in that mid lane, overextending themselves, gave over that Baron, but they strike right back with punishing an overextension from PSG themselves. So it looks like it's just a punish game of sorts. Which team is going to make that next overextension? And I mean, at some point you have to look to try and fight, because Dragon Soul is about to come up. It is alive now, and it doesn't look like PSG are interested in contesting, which you're getting slow resistance and you're getting extra move speed. Exactly what CFO have played for this game. It's been rotational gameplay, so this Soul just makes so much more sense for CFO. It makes them harder to catch out, and it makes it easier for them to catch people out. But Shun still playing very far forward, knowing he has the Galio and the backup of Koala's Tom Catch.
I love that this has just become like a full-on engage bait.
Shun's
Jinx.
the bait.
Yeah, Shun doesn't need to be the carry. You know why? Because Mission's the carry. Look at the items he's building. This dude's going for a Void Staff, man.
Oh my god. This man is so large and in charge. It is ridiculous.
Mission big man on campus.
I mean, he hasn't been CS gapping Bay anymore, but that's mostly because you've kind of capped out on what a Galio is going to do anyways. You could say the same about the Rise, but both of these champions, it's really just not about the farm game and getting that additional item anymore, because the item isn't going to change a whole lot of what these champs are going to do in fights. It's about positioning with these more global-esque champions, and Bay is another tantalizing bait.
Yeah, once again, a little overextension, but swallowed up by Koala. We are going to bring Rest back into this one. I didn't think they wanted to take the 5v5. It looked like there was a lot of vision established in that side of the jungle by CFO as they were trying to set up a push. And once again, Rest goes right back to the top. But look at this. PSG, they want to collapse on this tower, should be able to get it. Kaiwing gets a little bit chipped down, but not enough to back away. You see Hanabi, he's going to be leaving. The Light Vigil comes down, Shun takes a lot of damage, got to go back to base. Meanwhile, Kaiwing and crew are pushing on this tower. I don't know if they can out-trade this one. This is going to be the first inhibitor for PSG.
This is a wild base race, and PSG are the ones that come out on top. They have that mid-control, but now the collapse, possibly, but it could be an overextension.
They needed to commit to it, but Gemini and Koala got a little bit cold feet on that one, and it does end up resulting in PSG taking the inhib, not losing anything themselves.
Now they're going to rotate over for the Baron. If you look at the vision in this area, it's pretty much firmly in the side of PSG's control.
Gemini goes into the stasis. Do they have enough to turn the fight before he goes down? I don't think so. Teleport coming a little bit too late as the Realm Warp comes in. Rest tries to get the tax sweep, lands on 3, but it's going to be enough. Here comes the Hero's entrance dropping on. Hanabi, Winds of War will take him down, but can they turn the fight into 4v4? In goes the Camille, rooted down into stasis. So many Sonya's popping, and here comes the Galio mission once again. Shun's still alive in this one, but it's going to be enough. Bay, Kaiwing, getting chunked. They can do it. Unified still on the board, though, but they've got to turn around. Out of the stasis he goes! Can Unified 1v2? Oh, it's gonna end!
Oh, but now there's a clear path for Shun to just try and run bot lane, shove that wave in, possibly look to push that wave a little bit further, knowing where Unified is, and for Unified, he's just gonna path up. I thought he might go ahead, take that Scuttle Crab, but boy. Man, oh man, Pyra, what a game we are having here. Gemini face checks the bush. He immediately stopwatches to buy as much time as possible. Really creative use of the stopwatch, and this is a slight overextension coming from PSG, but at the same time, you don't expect that kind of damage from the hero's entrance. This is full damage. The Galio coming in here, and he is doing so much work, and a clutch Devour coming in from Koala there to keep his AD carry alive means they have just enough damage, and now CFO have themselves a Baron buff.
They managed to turn it, and they are working this map right now. Look at the hand. PSG Talon, their first loss since the opening game of the split. What an incredible performance, and they've managed to just bait and switch on their errors. I mean, let's be honest, Gemini, he face checks, he gets caught, he uses his stopwatch perfectly to buy the team time. PSG overextend, it turns into a CFO fight. What an incredible micro performance from them, and they just have such an unintuitive composition. As you said yourself, you're looking at this comp, you don't expect the Galio to be the main damage dealer, but there it is.
Yeah, the Galio Jinx combination doing a whole lot of work in that last fight, and so far they've played around their win conditions pretty well. Now it's just a matter of, can they find that killer blow? They've really lacked that killer instinct to just end these games outright from the side of CFO. They've really relied upon mistakes coming in from the flip side and then fully capitalizing with their mechanical ability. We'll see if that happens here, or if they're able to really effectively utilize this Baron buff. But because of the wave positions on the side, they're forced into just this fight.
And they're going to Gemini. He's the one pushing forward and into the next cycle ultimatum, looking for Unified. That's going to pop his GA. But will they have enough on the dive on the back? It's going to be enough to take down Juan under the top. They've got it. Now Kaiwing, he's got nowhere to go. And Shun is running wild with Mission keeping them on the top of all things. Hanabi zone completely out. And I think that's going to be it. CTBC Flying Oyster are flying high.
Oh my lord, it looked like CFO, they were about to just go straight into the sink during the second round robin, and they take a win against PSG Talent.
Not something I expected to be saying at the start of the day, and smiles on the faces, huge relief. And I think PSG, they're just a little stunned. They haven't seen that Nexus explode in 4 weeks.
Yeah, wow, what a stunning result. And Mission is the clear MVP for me. The amount of times he faked mid-roaming power and just faked pressure to these side lanes, and also had real pressure with the Predator boots, was just absurd. And that generated leads for Gemini. It kept his side lanes in it, prevented them from getting overdove upon. He also protected a couple of dives. As we see them, they just immediately go in. Gemini, killer instinct this time around. Again, when we look at the squad, it doesn't feel like there's one of those cold-blooded killers to start these fights out, but Gemini, he puts everything on the line. You saw around that Baron buff, he goes ahead, dashes straight in, immediately stopwatches because he knows they don't have a face-checking champion. I love it. I love it. I want to see more of this. Give me more. And now people have to look at the Galio against Mission of all things.
The AP Predator Galio, man, comes in, wins the ward, dishes so much damage, the taunt out. I mean, it was just the perfect setup to execute on the dive, and we thought maybe it'd just be the full wombo combo, but they were using it to pick off the backline. And, you know, Mission is the clear MVP. I'd be surprised if it's anything else. But I do want to shout out Koala for just playing the best Secret Service game I've ever seen. Protect the President every single time, keeping Shun alive. And that turned so many of those later fights when he finally got up to the item stack. Because he did have a rough laning phase, but he's still a Jinx. And when it counts at the end of the game, I think he'd rather be a full item Jinx than a full item Aphelios.
Yeah, especially in that setup. Again, like, there was a world where the Aphelios just absolutely demolishes the side of CFO because they're so low range besides the Jinx, but at the same time, because of the low range on the side of PSG, it also makes that area control coming in from the Galio ult that much more devastating too. So that was really just kind of the chess game here, knowing that both teams were played range-wise very similarly. And I mean, full damage Galio edges out full tank Rise, so what can I say? Full tank mid laners. Let's reevaluate that, guys.
Let me just say this, Nightstar. Bay has lost now on Rise twice. Coincidence? I think not. No, it like that was just so sick play from Mission. I think Gemini did have the killer instinct this game, and that's critical. They did not focus on topside. We thought that that was where they were going to try and snowball, but critically, even with some fumbles of early Rift Herald drops not being where they needed to, a little bit of greed there, I think Gemini overplayed his hand a few times in some of these fights, and they ended up allowing a few turns from PSG. But that was such a much more decisive game, and a game much more in sync, I think, between the 5 players than what we've seen from CFO these past few weeks. So whatever they have done to course correct, that is a massive statement. And here is the game. It was close. It was back and forth. It was bloody. And for 40 minutes, man, it was an absolute banger.
This was one of the most fun games we've had. And Mission, yes, it doesn't quite reflect in the damage charts. He was just a beast. And on the flip side, you saw how much heavy lifting the Unified had to do with his Aphelios. He did a heck of a lot of damage there.
Oh yeah, he was trying real hard. I also think PSG had a couple of errors in the early game and in some of those later fights too, right? Like Kaiwing had a little bit of positional errors. He obviously saved the day in a couple situations too, but he's not the one we're going to talk about because yeah, Mission absolutely earned this MVP. 75% kill participation. He was all over the map. There is a limit to how much damage a Galio can do, but I think he pushed through it.
Yeah, what he didn't quite have in the damage numbers, he made up for with just pure map pressure. And This is probably one of the first times we've seen PSG really contested when it comes to map rotations and just trying to attack them in before they out-rotate you around the map. So congratulations to CFO with a massive victory there. And it really wasn't about Bay's tank rise. It wasn't about the tank rise as much as I want to meme about it. It really was all about Mission outplaying everyone else on the map.
Absolutely, and it does look like PSG have themselves quite a challenger, maybe a rival. We do see that the standings could be shaken up, but we got to go on break after that one. When we return, Sem9 take on J-Team.